In my last life, I thought he didn't love me. So I treated him extremely badly. It wasn't until he was murdered that I found a photo in his wallet. It was a picture of me when I was 19 years old. On the back of the photo, it said, "I will always love you, Evangeline." I couldn't stop crying and committed suicide to be with him. After being reborn, I saw Zephyr sitting in the hall reading a magazine. And his hand was bleeding. "Come on. Let's go to the hospital." He raised his eyes. After a few seconds of surprise, he said coldly, "Evangeline, what kind of trouble do you want to make today?" After Zephyr died, he was cyberbullied. The reason was that he was a simp. His enemies didn't forget to fan the flames in front of the media, saying that his wife didn't care about him. He was unsuccessful in business. And he was a good-for-nothing. Among his belongings, I found a photo stained with blood. On the back of the photo, it said, "I will always love you, Evangeline." The photo had been in Zephyr's wallet for several years and had already faded a bit, and the front of the photo was of me. The maid, Aunt Lee, told me through tears that Zephyr had been silently sacrificing for me behind my back and that he loved me very much. I took the car keys and went out. I wanted to find the media and tell them that Zephyr wasn't someone who wasn't loved. However, on the way there, I had a car accident. I was thrown out and hit heavily on the wheel of a large truck. I realized that I was about to die. On that day, there was a light drizzle, and I spat out blood. "Zephyr, I'm sorry." When I woke up again, I was lying in bed. After Zephyr and I got married, we slept in separate beds. This room was the guest room, which I had decorated myself, so I recognized it. I realized that I had traveled back in time. I traveled back to the 7th year of my marriage to Zephyr. Today, Zephyr went to the Dong Huang entertainment venue to discuss business. I remembered that in my last life, when Zephyr went to discuss business, he was beaten up by Damien's men and was covered in injuries. I quickly rushed to the Dong Huang. Relying on my memory from the previous life, I found Zephyr's private room. The private room was filled with smoke, and there were wine and fruit platters on the table. There were many beautiful women around those men. Zephyr was sitting alone in the corner, with a cigarette between his index finger and middle finger. When I went in, everyone's eyes turned to me, and they thought I was a hostess. A man with an extraordinary appearance waved at me, motioning for me to go over and keep him company. I knew him. He was Damien. Instead of going over, I went directly to Zephyr's side. The colorful lights in the private room shone on Zephyr's face, and I couldn't clearly see the injuries on his body. "Come on. Let's go to the hospital." I grabbed his hand, and he was stunned for a moment, not moving at all. He pried my hand open. Damien smiled and said, "President Zephyr, if you want me to give you the contract today, you have to finish all this wine." I glanced at the wine on the table. There was a lot of it. Zephyr didn't hesitate to open a bottle and pour it into his mouth. And then another bottle. I picked up a bottle of wine, walked up to Damien, and smashed the wine bottle on Damien's head. "Damien, don't go too far. Evangeline, didn't you hate Zephyr very much? Why today?" He fell to the ground before he could finish speaking, and the hostesses were so scared that they ran out. The boss, who was discussing cooperation with Zephyr, was shocked by my actions and dragged Damien out of the private room. In the private room, there were only me and Zephyr left. When everyone had left, he stopped drinking. He sat there, raised his eyes to look at me, and questioned, "Evangeline, what kind of trouble do you want to make today?" I didn't say anything and walked over to hold his big hand, wanting to leave there. He picked me up and held me in his arms, looking down at me. I felt creeped out by his fixed gaze. I bit my lip. "Zephyr, go to the hospital and get your injuries checked, okay?" In my last life, he ignored his injuries in order to secure this business deal. But within a few years, his old illness relapsed in the late night of winter, and his health got worse and worse. He was framed by Damien's scheme. He could have escaped, but because of the recurrence of his old illness, he died there. I knew that he worked so hard all for me, just because I casually said that I wanted a better quality of life. For this sentence of mine, he worked day and night. He achieved it. In just a few years, he became the richest man in Hai Chang. And Damien, who had always been jealous of him, tried every means to bring him down. In order to get this business deal, he beat Zephyr up on the way, but he still came to discuss the business with his injuries. Zephyr didn't say anything and carried me out of the Dong Huang. In the car, I sat in the back row with him. He held a cigarette in his hand. He probably wanted to smoke, but he didn't because I was there. I grabbed his arm and looked at him, saying, "Honey, shall we go to the hospital?" He turned his head, and his deep eyes met mine. Remembering that he had silently sacrificed for me, even giving his life, my heart ached, and tears streamed down my face involuntarily. Falling on the back of his hand, his lips moved slightly. "Don't cry. I'll go and get checked." Zephyr went to the hospital run by his friend. I hurried to register for him and queue up for him. Finally, heading zur Feldleid-Session, I took the diagnosis report and showed it to his friend. I asked anxiously, "Doctor, how is he? Is there anything wrong?" His friend smiled. "It's okay. Just go back and rest more. And eat something light." When we were about to leave the hospital, Zephyr's friend pulled him and said, "Evangeline seems to care about you very much and is very afraid that something will happen to you. Cherish it." Zephyr nodded while covering the place on his arm that had been pinched. In my last life, he was forced by his parents to marry me. I thought he didn't like me. I was indifferent to him and left him aside. I often went out to eat and travel with my male confidant, Phoenix, and unintentionally hurt his feelings. Fortunately, it's not too late yet. The villa was brightly lit. When we got home, I cooked dinner for Zephyr myself and told him not to get his hands wet. My sudden kindness made him very uncomfortable, and he thought I was plotting something. "Evangeline, what else do you want to do to me?" I stood there, stunned, with the plate in my hand. "Zephyr, I just want to be nice to you." He sighed, looking disbelieving. At this moment, the phone on the dining table vibrated. After putting down the plate, I walked over and took a look. It was a WeChat video call from Phoenix. The phone was right in front of Zephyr. I glanced at him, and his face was gloomy. I swiped the phone and rejected Phoenix's video call. But after a while, the video call came again. I pressed the answer button, and the other side spoke first. "Evangeline, I'm hungry. Accompany me to eat something delicious. I'm right outside your door now. I'll be out right away." I hung up the phone, changed my shoes, and at the entrance, I saw that Zephyr's already gloomy face looked even worse. And he was holding the cup tightly in his hand. Obviously, having fulfilled my sorry. He was jealous. In my last life, I didn't pay attention to these details at all. It turned out that he really loved me. Today is Valentine's Day. Phoenix asked me to spend Valentine's Day with him, and I refused. After I refused him, he said he wasn't feeling well and asked me to accompany him to the hospital, and I also refused. Remembering that in my last life, he also tricked me into going to the hospital for an examination with him. And the doctor said there was nothing wrong with him at all. A few minutes later, I came back. Zephyr raised his eyes and looked at me in surprise. His eyes showed no emotion. I carried a bouquet of roses into the dining room, put the roses in a vase, and placed it in the center of the dining table. Zephyr glanced at the roses, put down his chopsticks unhappily, and thought the roses were really an eyesore. I just wanted to provoke him. I walked over, picked up a chopstick of food, and put it in his bowl. "Honey, today is Valentine's Day. Phoenix is my male confidant. He gave me roses. You don't have any objections, do you?" Zephyr picked up his chopsticks and said inferiorly, "As long as you're happy, that's fine." I put down my chopsticks, clenched my fists, and sat on his lap. "But why do I always feel that you're not happy? Phoenix knows to give me roses on Valentine's Day. Why don't you show any sign of it?" I was a bit nervous, and my heart was pounding. He carried me to the dining chair next to him and said in a serious tone, "You're not acting right today. Come on. Tell me, what kind of trouble do you want to make this time?" "I'm not making trouble." He rubbed his temple. "Evangeline, I don't want to quarrel with you. Can you just let me rest in peace? He picked up his coat and left the dining room. I casually took a few bites of food and then went upstairs. I had to use some tricks. I took a shower, put on a strapless white dress, and stood by the railing on the second floor. Downstairs, Zephyr was sitting in the hall reading a magazine. He accidentally raised his eyes and looked at me. When he saw that I had put on delicate makeup, was wearing a strapless white dress, and had on sexy high heels, suddenly, a warm current flowed out of his nose. I held back my laughter and walked downstairs, asking, "Zephyr, are you okay?" He raised his eyes. After a few seconds of surprise, he said coldly, "I'm not dead yet. Don't be in such a hurry. I'm still alive." He meant that I was going out to meet Phoenix, but not to go too far since he wasn't dead yet. "Honey, do I look pretty tonight?" He glanced at me, continued reading the magazine, and didn't say anything. I took out a document and handed it to him. "Honey, this is Damien's background information. I hope you can defeat him and acquire his company." Zephyr put down the magazine, picked up the document, and quickly scanned it. Then, he let out a low sigh. He leaned back on the leather sofa, rubbing his forehead. "Evangeline, do you really dislike me that much? Does seeing me make you want to vomit? Will you be satisfied only when I'm dead?" I said anxiously. "I don't." Zephyr stood up and threw the document on the coffee table in front of me. "I really don't." Zephyr was extremely disappointed in me. "You gave me a fake document. Don't you want me to die?" I was shocked as if struck by lightning, remembering that in my last life, I put this document in Zephyr's company office, hoping that he would defeat his competitor, Damien. I never expected that this was a document that would lead to his death. In my last life, after Zephyr read the document, he followed what was written in it. In the end, his company went bankrupt, and he was killed by Damien. I had always refused to believe that such a brilliant person like him couldn't have died at the hands of Damien. It turned out that he thought I wanted him to die. So even though he had a chance to escape, he gave up. I took the car keys and was about to go and question Phoenix why he gave me a fake document. He was a famous singer, and it was more than enough for him to help me investigate all the information about Damien. Zephyr's big hand grabbed my waist. "What? You've done something wrong and want to leave? Do you want to spend Valentine's Day with Phoenix?" Zephyr's scarlet eyes made me a bit scared. "Zephyr, it's not what you think. I just want to go and ask him why he gave me a fake document." Phoenix, Zephyr, and I all came out of the orphanage. It was just that after Zephyr was adopted in advance, Phoenix and I were left in the orphanage. During the days in the orphanage, Phoenix was very kind to me. I always regarded him as my elder brother and my male confidant. I thought that in this world, Zephyr might treat me badly, but Phoenix would definitely never betray me. However, I never expected that he would give me a fake document. Zephyr released my waist, pinched my neck, and his face was gloomy, extremely angry. Perhaps, in the next second, he would turn me into ashes. I closed my eyes and let him deal with me as he pleased. He misunderstood that I gave him a fake document, and I understood his anger. But I didn't feel him tightening his grip on my neck. When I opened my eyes carefully, his thin lips were getting closer and closer to mine until he kissed my lips. I didn't avoid him. Perhaps it was because I looked very alluring. So he was moved. After he kissed me for a long time, he held me in his arms. He whispered in my ear, "Evangeline, don't you really know that Phoenix is Damien's elder brother?" I opened my eyes in disbelief. I swear that I really didn't know that Phoenix was Damien's elder brother. I didn't know it in my previous life, and I don't know it in this life either. "Zephyr, I really didn't know that Phoenix is Damien's elder brother. I swear, if I knew, I would die a miserable death." He interrupted me and said, "Phoenix's father abandoned Phoenix and his mother in order to marry a young lady from a wealthy family back then. Phoenix's mother was abandoned, fell ill, and passed away. A neighbor sent him to the orphanage." I looked at him and said, "Zephyr, I'm sorry. Innocence is presumed for those who are unaware." Zephyr told me that in fact, he knew every move of Damien and Phoenix. So, there was no need for me to remind him. And he had already been on guard. The next day, Phoenix called and said that it was his birthday today, and the birthday party would be held in a hotel. He invited me to his birthday party. I originally wanted to refuse, but I wanted to make things clear to him face to face and then have no more contact with him. After I hung up the phone, I found that Zephyr was standing at the door. Zephyr heard the whole process of my phone call with Phoenix. I walked over to explain. He threw the box in his hand on the ground and turned away. Zephyr. Before I could explain, Zephyr entered the study and closed the door. Well played. I picked up the several boxes on the ground. Inside the boxes were necklaces, bracelets, and even ankle bracelets. He wanted to tie me to his side. It was a pity that he happened to hear my conversation with Phoenix. I walked over and knocked on the door of Zephyr's study. Zephyr. I'm going to Phoenix's birthday party to make things clear and then come back. Can you trust me this time? I'm begging you. I didn't know if he heard me inside. When I wanted to say more, the door opened. I looked up at him, and tears welled up in my eyes out of anxiety. Zephyr clenched his fist and lightly smashed it against the doorframe. Evangeline. I'll trust you one last time. But if you hurt me again, don't blame me for being ruthless to you. My eyes were wet, and I nodded vigorously. Finally, he said that he would go with me because he didn't feel at ease leaving me alone. I agreed. We went to Phoenix's birthday party. Phoenix noticed me at the first moment and also noticed Zephyr beside me. When he saw Zephyr, his smiling face immediately fell. Evangeline. You're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Phoenix pulled my wrist, trying to take me away from Zephyr's side. I pushed his hand away. Phoenix. From the moment you gave me the fake document, we are no longer friends. Phoenix looked at me and then realized what I was talking about. He smiled and said, Did you listen to Zephyr's nonsense? That document is real. Evangeline. I really didn't lie to you. I clenched my fist and stared at him. Then you said you had no relatives. And I was the only relative you had in this world. So why is Damien your younger brother? Your half-brother? Phoenix was stunned and avoided my gaze with a guilty look. Then, when I will sigh, he explained. Evangeline. Listen to my explanation. Actually, I didn't know about this at all. It was my father who came to the orphanage to recognize me that I found out Damien is my younger brother. You're lying. If that were the case, why didn't you tell me at the first moment? You clearly knew that Zephyr's competitor in the business world is Damien. But you just didn't say it. My voice was a bit loud, and everyone present was attracted by my voice. Everyone's eyes were on the three of us. Phoenix was a famous singer and didn't want to make a fool of himself. He pulled me and pleaded. Evangeline. Can we find a place to sit down and talk? Okay. Phoenix said that Zephyr didn't need to be involved in the matter between him and me. I asked him to wait for me. Phoenix and I went to the pavilion outside the hotel. I didn't want to delay his birthday party and said, Phoenix. There's nothing more for us to talk about. You're no longer my friend. And we won't contact each other in the future. I turned to leave. When I reached the corner, someone covered my mouth and dragged me backward. I smelled an unusual fragrance and fainted. When I opened my eyes, there were messy junk food bags and empty wine bottles all around. When I looked down, it was very high. This was an unfinished building on the outskirts of Hai Cheng. I was on the rooftop of the unfinished building. There was a room on the rooftop, and Phoenix was resting on the chaise lounge inside. Phoenix. What do you want? My hands and feet were tied tightly, and I couldn't move. When Phoenix heard my voice, that charming face showed a disgusting smile. I said that it was impossible for him to become a top-tier singer so smoothly. It turned out that he had a powerful younger brother. I should have understood earlier that in my previous life, Zephyr's death was inseparable from Phoenix. I remembered that day in my previous life. Zephyr was dead drunk. When he came home, he had sex with me. A few months later, I found out that I was pregnant. I called Zephyr and said that I was going to have an abortion, and he had no right to disagree. But on the other end of the phone, he didn't allow me to have an abortion and said that he was willing to do anything for me. We had an argument on the phone. I knew that he would come back to stop me. And his whereabouts were always secret. And no one knew. I only told Phoenix. That day, I was going to the hospital for an induced abortion and asked him to drive to pick me up. I called and urged him several times, saying that if he didn't hurry up, Zephyr would be back. And Zephyr never came back on his way home that time. Phoenix accompanied me to the hospital for the induced abortion. I heaved a sigh of relief and called Zephyr to tell him that the baby was gone. Perhaps at that time, Zephyr had already had an accident. If that call hadn't been made, would he not have died? On his way home, Zephyr was blocked by more than a dozen cars in a remote place. Zephyr could have fought them off, but his old illness flared up, and he was tied up by Phoenix's people. He could have tried his best to escape, but when he heard that I had an abortion and with the addition of the fake document I gave him, he had lost all hope of living. And in this life, will Zephyr also encounter vehicles blocking him on his way today? Will he be beaten to death by Damien's men? Phoenix spat a mouthful of phlegm on the ground and walked towards me. What do I want? Guess what I want. Since you already know, I'll make it clear to you today. My younger brother's company has been suppressed so much that it can't breathe because of Zephyr's existence. Approaching you was originally my goal. Zephyr really loves you. When we were in the orphanage, whenever someone bullied you, he was the first to stand in front of you and protect you. He gave you all the delicious things. Even after he was adopted, he didn't forget to send you letters. And he sent you dresses and leather shoes. Unfortunately, having fulfilled my, you didn't know because I burned them all. After Phoenix finished speaking, he laughed ferociously. Evangeline. At first, I really approached you for a purpose. But later I found that I seemed to have fallen in love with you. I didn't want to listen to him anymore and asked, Phoenix, what did your younger brother do to Zephyr? Phoenix was very angry when he saw that I was still concerned about Zephyr even at this critical moment. Evangeline. Since you can't be with me, then I want to possess your body. And then we'll jump off here together and be a couple of ghosts. It's not true that I wasn't afraid. Phoenix. You're a lunatic. Phoenix threw off his coat and walked towards me with a twisted face. Evangeline. Come on. Phoenix. Zephyr won't let you get away with this. Mentioning Zephyr, Phoenix looked annoyed. Don't mention that useless guy in front of me. You've been married to him for 7 years. And he never touched you. You're so stupid and pitiful. Phoenix pinched my mouth and put something like a pill into my mouth. Phoenix. What are you doing? Nothing. It's just something to make you cooperate. After seeing me swallow it, Phoenix stared me into the small room. He kicked the door shut. There was no light inside. Phoenix took off my coat. I shrank back. And Phoenix groped towards me. Phoenix. Can you please not do this? Please let me go. At this moment, my eyes were red. Phoenix was really terrifying. I just realized that I didn't know Phoenix at all. When Phoenix took off all my clothes, I thought of Zephyr. Will Zephyr come to save me? Is he still alive? If he's alive, he will definitely come to save me. At this moment, the door was kicked open. The person standing at the door was tall and powerful. It was Zephyr. Zephyr. I was so excited that tears streamed down my face. He really came. He came to save me. When Phoenix turned to look, he was greeted with a punch from Zephyr, followed by a kick. Phoenix was knocked to the ground, and 2 of his teeth were knocked out. He spat out a mouthful of blood onto the ground. Before the police arrived, Zephyr took off his coat and covered me with it. He untied the ropes on my hands and feet. He picked me up and went out. His embrace made me feel very safe at this moment. He is my only one. My support. I will never leave him in this life. After the police came to the rooftop, they didn't know when Phoenix had run out. He stood on the edge of the rooftop, facing me and Zephyr. Phoenix looked at me and smiled. Evangeline. Since you can't be with me in this life, I'll have to wait for you down there. After he finished speaking, he jumped off the unfinished building. Phoenix. I shouted. There was an air cushion below, but the floor was too high, and Phoenix's jumping position deviated a bit from the air cushion, and his head hit the ground. When the ambulance arrived, he was already dead. Zephyr was afraid that I would have nightmares if I saw it, so he didn't allow me to look. Zephyr carried me to the car and drove away from the scene. On the way, the drug in my body took effect. I said urgently, "Zephyr, I'm not feeling well. Call a doctor for me. Hurry up." Zephyr stopped the car and looked back at me. "I know that my face is red and my whole body is burning hot right now." "Evangeline, why is your face so red? What's wrong? Are you not feeling well anywhere?" I didn't know how to tell him, so I could only ask him to quickly find his doctor friend to examine me. "Stop asking so many questions. Call your doctor friend and ask him to come to our house and treat my illness." Zephyr was a bit anxious. "There's no need to call him. I'll just take you to the hospital directly." "No. No." I was anxious and grabbed Zephyr's hand. Zephyr was taken aback. He felt that the palm of my hand was very hot and instantly understood why I didn't want to go to the hospital. In such a situation, I wouldn't go to the hospital and embarrass myself. Zephyr parked the car on the lawn. He noticed a hot spring not far away and said to me outside the car window, "Evangeline, it's far from home here. This is the outskirts. And there are no hotels around. How about taking a bath to relieve it?" Before he could finish his words, I opened the car door and hooked my arms around his neck. "My dear Zephyr, I love you." He was startled by my sudden action. Then, hunting fulfilled my obsession, he replied, "Evangeline, I love you too." I took the initiative to kiss his thin lips, but he avoided me. "Evangeline, what's the matter? Don't you love me?" I asked. "No. Isn't this taking advantage of you when you're in a vulnerable state?" "No. I allow it." The corners of his mouth turned up slightly. This man had probably been waiting for me to say this for a long time. "Evangeline, don't worry. I'll take responsibility for you." When I woke up, I was already lying in Zephyr's room. Zephyr held me tightly in his arms. When I gently released his arm, he pulled me back and held me tightly again. "Evangeline, you woke up so early. Go back to sleep for a while." "Okay." But I couldn't fall asleep again after waking up. What's more, there was a big man beside me, and I still felt unaccustomed to it. I looked around Zephyr's room. I had never been in his room before. This was the first time I had come in. There were our wedding photos in it, and I was a bit surprised. When I looked further, there were also my photos on the bedside table. Many years later, he told me that he would look at my photo every night before going to bed. "Zephyr, call me husband." I pursed my lips. "I want to get up. Could you please bring me a set of clothes?" "Husband? Okay." He got up, went to the cloakroom, and brought a set of clothes, even including underwear and panties. And they fit me perfectly. His cloakroom was connected to the room. I asked, "Husband, when did you buy these clothes for me?" "I bought them a long time ago." I asked him to turn his back to me because I wanted to get dressed. He said, "I've already seen everything. Why are you being shy? I told you not to look. So don't look." "Yes." After I got dressed, I went to his cloakroom. This wasn't just his cloakroom. It was simply my cloakroom. There were dresses, high heels, cosmetics, bags, and even jewelry in it. I ran out and asked, "Zephyr, when did you buy so many things?" "I started buying them on our wedding day. Every day, you either ignored me or quarreled with me. So I thought you definitely wouldn't want the things I bought. I planned to give them to you after you made up with me someday." It turned out that he had bought me birthday gifts every year, as well as brand name clothes and jewelry of that year. I was so touched that I hugged him and cried. "Silly girl. Don't cry." At this moment, Zephyr's phone rang. It was a call from the police station, asking me and him to go and make a statement. I explained the whole process of my kidnapping by Phoenix. And Zephyr also explained what he had done. After he found out that I left with Phoenix in the hotel and didn't come back for a long time, he went to look for me. But he didn't find me. Nor did he see Phoenix. Zephyr called the maid at home to ask if I had returned home. But I hadn't. Zephyr asked the front desk staff of the hotel, and they hadn't seen me either. Finally, Zephyr was worried. He checked the surveillance and called the police. Zephyr searched all the way to the outskirts. On the way, he was blocked by Damien's men in a car. Zephyr had no choice but to get out of the car. After getting out of the car, Damien and his men walked towards him menacingly with baseball bats in their hands and started beating Zephyr without saying a word. Zephyr said that fortunately, he had anticipated that this day would come and had learned martial arts. However, the other side outnumbered him. In the end, due to exhaustion, he was kicked to the ground by Damien. Damien tied him up and took him to the edge of a cliff outside the suburbs, intending to throw Zephyr down the abyss. But before throwing him down, he wanted to humiliate Zephyr. So he hung him on a tree branch by the edge of the cliff, waiting to humiliate him. Just as Damien sat on the boss's chair and was about to humiliate Zephyr, the police found them through Zephyr's car. Zephyr narrowly escaped death. In fact, Zephyr told me that at that time, he was thinking of saving me and even wished that Damien would throw him off the cliff. He had been to this cliff before, and there was a bottomless river below. He said he was sure he wouldn't die. After Zephyr was saved, he found me immediately. After we got home, when I asked him why he found me so easily, he said that he had installed a locator in my phone, in case I got lost and he couldn't find me. When I asked him when he installed it, he said that he took my phone when I was asleep on the night of our wedding. A few days later, news about Damien came out. Damien was not only Zephyr's competitor, but also the leader of the underworld. While being chased, he accidentally fell off the cliff and died. Phoenix was dead. And Damien was also dead. One day, Zephyr came home from work. I stood upstairs and glared at him. He raised his eyes and asked, "What's wrong?" "Zephyr, you installed a locator in my phone. I haven't settled the score with you yet. Just you wait." As I said this, I went downstairs to chase him. And he ran into the villa garden. "Zephyr, if you have the guts, don't run." It was as if we had gone back to the days in the orphanage. Zephyr chased after me. And I ran forward. While chasing me, he was also worried about me and told me to watch the road and not fall. Suddenly, I vomited. Zephyr ran over and patted my back. "What's wrong?" "It's nothing. I just felt nauseous for a while." Zephyr and I went to the hospital. And the doctor told us that I had been pregnant for half a month. I was happy to hear that I was pregnant. Zephyr asked me to stay in the hospital for a few days. Finally, having so felt my inside, he asked me to go home and rest. He cooked for me himself every day after work and took care of me. One night, Zephyr brought a bowl of chicken soup for me to drink. "Zephyr, you drink it." Before I could finish my words, Zephyr kissed my lips and fed the chicken soup into my mouth. The door was pushed open. And it was Zephyr's adoptive parents. When they saw this scene, they awkwardly backed out of the room. Zephyr's mother quickly closed the door and mumbled, "Don't look at improper things. Don't look at improper things." Zephyr's parents were very happy to see that Zephyr and I had made up, and they dared to come and visit us. I pushed Zephyr away. "I don't want to be fed like this." He smiled and said, "Then how do you want to be fed?" I gave him a glare. "I have my own hands." Zephyr took care of me carefully. He hired more than a dozen nannies and more than 100 bodyguards for me. Every morning when I woke up, there were people moving around outside the window. Every time I opened my eyes in the morning, I was startled. There were bodyguards standing at the door of the room and on the stairs. Zephyr was really making a big deal out of it. When Zephyr came home from work, he hugged me and gently kissed my forehead. "Zephyr, you hired so many nannies and so many bodyguards. What do you want to do? I see them moving around in front of me every day, and it makes me annoyed. For your safety, could you please bear with it for a while?" During my pregnancy, I had a bad temper. Zephyr was bullied by me again and again. But he still stayed by my side and let me bully him. "Theft. I think you're just narrow-minded. You have so many people watching me because you're afraid that I'll run away." Zephyr looked at me steadily. "Am I wrong?" "You're not wrong." I got up and stood on the coffee table, with my belly sticking out. "You call these people away. Or next time, I won't just be standing on the coffee table." Zephyr's face turned black. Finally, hadn't so felt me. He waved his hand. Those bodyguards and nannies left. and only Aunt Lee remained. I was about to jump off the coffee table. And Zephyr was quick-eyed and quick-handed. He grabbed me. "You're not alone anymore. Pay attention to the baby in your belly." I stuck out my tongue and replied, "Got it. You're really like those nagging old women." He pulled a long face. "Who are you calling an old woman?" "You. You're an old woman. You're not much better either. You're clearly an elegant piano teacher who can act coquettously and even learned to threaten me." I widened my eyes and glared at him. "What did you say?" He had a black look on his face and didn't dare to talk back. I smiled triumphantly. I felt really good inside. As I thought about it, I became sad. In the morning, the director of the orphanage called me and asked if Zephyr and I wanted to go and visit Phoenix. Because today was the Qingming festival. I didn't go, but Zephyr did. In my last life, I trusted him so much that I even told him that Zephyr and I slept in separate rooms. But he betrayed my trust, schemed against Zephyr, and finally killed both Zephyr and me. When Zephyr passed away, he comforted me, heading to Philblaosai, stayed at my house, and took care of my daily life. As for Zephyr's study, I went in with him. The password for Zephyr's computer was my birthday. He used my birthday to open the computer and knew all the company's secrets. It turned out that he was the one who told Damien the company's secrets. At that time, Phoenix and I found a box of unsent letters, all of which were addressed to the orphanage. And these letters were all for me. Maybe I never replied to the letters Zephyr sent me each time. So, he wrote letter after letter and put them away. I read all of them. In the letters, he said that after he left the orphanage, there wasn't a single day when he didn't think of me. He begged his adoptive parents to marry me into the Shen family. Otherwise he would rather not get married and have children for the rest of his life. It turned out that it wasn't his parents who forced him to marry me. When Zephyr and his adoptive parents came to the orphanage to propose marriage, I had very mixed feelings. I thought I was the only one who had a crush on him. But it turned out that he had a crush on me too. I misunderstood that he didn't love me and often went out to have fun with Phoenix. Unexpectedly, Zephyr knew all about it but never said anything. I still remember what he wrote in his notes. On March 16th, Evangeline went out again. She went mountain climbing with Phoenix. I wonder if she wore a sun hat and if Phoenix took good care of her. On June 1st, Evangeline wore a red strapless suspender dress and danced lat and dance with Phoenix at home. I secretly watched them and wished I could break Phoenix's hands. On July 8th, my Evangeline wore a miniskirt and paired it with sexy high heels. She deliberately walked around in front of me, thinking I wasn't looking at her. In fact, I was trying very hard to control myself and almost couldn't hold back. After the baby was born, on a whim, I wanted to go to Zephyr's study and look through the letters he wrote. Was he still as infatuated with me as in the last life? I searched everywhere but couldn't find a single letter written by Zephyr. Damn it. Where did Zephyr hide the letters? When I was about to leave the room, the door handle was turned. Zephyr stood upright by the door in his pajamas, with one hand behind his back. "Evangeline, what are you doing here?" "Nothing. I thought I saw a mouse come in, so I came over to get rid of it." "Is that so? Weren't you afraid of mice from childhood?" I never expected that Zephyr would even know that I was afraid of mice. My face turned bright red. He saw through my excuse. He took out a thick stack of letters from his hand. "Are you looking for this?" I glanced at it. It was indeed what I was looking for. But I couldn't admit it. "No. Nonsense. Don't you know that I've installed a monitor in my study? It can see your every move and hear what you say." I felt extremely embarrassed at that moment. It really felt awful to be caught red-handed. I looked up at him cautiously. "Well, Zephyr, can I take a look at the letters you wrote?" "Yes. But you have to read them out loud." When Zephyr flipped through the letters, the content inside was completely different from that in the previous life. It was. After I finished reading one page, my face turned very red. Zephyr said seriously, "Read it out." My stomach hurts so much. I need to use the restroom first." I tried to slip away. Zephyr grabbed me and carried me into the room. "Go and feed the baby quickly."